Hey guys, we're looking at linear graphs, straight line graphs in this chapter. We're going to kick off with the Cartesian plane. You may have seen this last year. We have, I guess, like kind of your coordinates grid. And the first thing that I want you to know is that the middle is the origin. Okay, so that I'll just call it the origin. And we have our y-axis and we have our x-axis. Okay, so y is going vertical and your horizontal axis is your x1. Okay, as you can see, like because they cross over, you have four quadrants, or it divides into four parts. This is considered as let's quadrant 1, and because both values in your coordinates, and we'll talk about coordinates later, is all positive. Quadrant 2 is on the left, okay, and so we're kind of going anti-clockwise. Quadrant 3 is the bottom left, and then quadrant 4 is the last one. Okay, so if we're ever referring to a particular quadrant, that's which quarter we're looking at. Okay, so coordinates. I don't know if Battleships is a classic game for you, or I'm just getting older now, but Battleships is a classic game which helps understand coordinates or be able to refer to it. And then obviously when it comes to maps, we're looking at, I don't know if you remember the Melways, and you would look at grid references to find where you are, where you need to go. But obviously we're in the technology world of GPSs and Apple and Google Maps, so that may not be so familiar. Anyways, so coordinates start with the x value and then finish off with the y value. Very simple, two numbers. And the best way to know which order it is, it's always the x first and then the y. Alphabetical order, x is always first in the alphabet before y. Okay, so if we were to have a point right here, you want to see where it meets both vertically and horizontally. Okay, so the blue coordinate, we'll call this coordinate A. Okay, A is 2 for the x, and then y is considered as 1. Okay, so if we changed a different color to say green, and we had a coordinate up here, and we'll call this coordinate B, we want to line it up, and we can see that B is -3 on the x-axis. So we'll put -3, making sure that you've got your negative symbols annotated. You don't want to leave them out. And we've got a +4 for our y. Let's move on to, let's pick orange, and why not? Let's do this one here. We'll call this point C. So C is, if we line it up, on the x value, it's -1. And then on our y value, it's at -3. Okay. And then lastly, let's look at a coordinate in quadrant 4. And I'd like to pick this one. Okay, so I'll call that quadrant D, point D, and we can see the x value first is lining up at 4, and our y value is lining up at -2. All right, so I want you to understand that each of these 4 points that we've just put in are in 4 different quadrants, and the values of each x and y are different. Okay, so let's look at A. Both x and y are positive. Okay, we've got a positive 2 and we've got a positive 1. Whereas in quadrant 3, where point C is, both x and y are negative. Okay, we have a -1 and we have a -3. If we move to quadrant 2, where point B is, x is negative and y is positive. Okay, so we have a -3 and we have a +4. And then lastly, in quadrant 4, x is positive and y is negative. So I'm hoping that helps you understand, I guess, the different parts and different components of the Cartesian plane. I want you to probably put in 2 more words, and that's translation and reflection. Okay, so what we'll do is I'll move on to another page and we can have a look at what those things look like. Okay, so translation, reflection, rotation, they're all 3 different ways of how we manipulate the coordinates or change the coordinates of the point. And I will just start off with translation. Okay, translation refers to movement. All right, so it moves up or down or left and right. Okay, so let's say with point A, if point A is, we'll use the same word, translates, say 3 units up and 2 units left, where is the next point? Okay, so I would put the next point, okay, is going to be where we move this. So here we have A, and we're going to move it 3 units up. So we got 1, 2, 3. And then we need to move it 2 units to the left. So 1 and 2. So this is where the next point ends up. So like I said, we got 3 units up and 2 units to the left. Okay, so the new set of coordinates, once we've translated A, is now at point 0. So x value is 0 and our y value is at +4. We're going to move on to reflection, and we'll use point B as our example. And let's say point B is reflected about the, let's call it x-axis. Okay, so we want to know where this new coordinate is after it's been reflected. And so I want you to treat the x-axis, in this case, it specifies the x-axis. Here's our x-axis, the horizontal plane, and that is going to be like our mirror. Okay, so if this was a mirror, where would it be reflected? Now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 spots. Okay, which means the reflection is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 spots on the other side. So that should be the point where it's been reflected, using the x-axis as like a mirror. So what we can see is that the reflection point is still the same value for x, which is -3, but the new point for y is actually not +4, but it's now -4. Okay, and now the last thing that we'll be doing is rotation. Okay, so let's go, What color shall we use? Let's go purple. Okay, let's use point D. Okay, point D is rotated. Let's go anti-clockwise. Now, I hope you know which way anti-clockwise is. So anti-clockwise. Let's go 180 degrees. 180 degrees about the origin. Okay, so that sounds probably a little bit complicated. We'll remember that the origin is the center point, so I want you to be thinking that there is just to think that there's a pole that is firmly attached to point D, and anti-clockwise is going this direction, okay? But we are moving it only at 180 degrees. So if we thought about this as being 180 degrees like that, then what we're looking is our point is going to be here. Okay, so we can see that I've just drew 180 degrees as an angle, and we moved anti-clockwise, and you can see that we do have a straight line, and our new point is there. Okay, so our new point of D is going to be at -4 for X and 2 for Y. So there's our coordinates for the new point of D. Hopefully that helps you guys with translation, reflection, rotation. Now, out of those three, I would say that rotation is the trickier one, but it does take some time, so be patient. Don't get stressed or frustrated. Practice makes perfect, and if you need help, feel free to let me know. I'll see you in the next one.